Tonight, a double whammy. The JVP hands over another no confidence against Minister Faisal Mustafa pertaining to the local government polls. Positions means nothing. President Maithripala Sirisena expresses willingness to step down if undue allegations are leveled against his decisions. Conditional merger. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa insists that the SLFP must withdraw from the government to have any chance of contesting elections with the joint opposition. And in international headlines, 30 years of waiting, former Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa sworn in as Zimbabwe's president after decades of Mugabe rule. In cricket, cracks exposed, Sri Lanka collapses on a batting-friendly pitch in Nagpur. Good evening to all our viewers joining us across Sri Lanka and around the world. I'm Mahesh Johnny and this is First at 9. Our news coverage begins tonight with a statement from the President. President Maithripala Sirisena asserts that if undue allegations are levelled against his decision on fraud and corruption, he is ready to step down from his position and join the people to continue the fight against corruption. The President made the assertion during a public rally held today in Nikavaratia.
A vast crowd, including Chief Minister of Wayanma Province, Dharmasiri Dasanayaka, several other provincial councillors and members of parliament took part in the public rally held under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena.
Mature, intelligent politicians must take up leadership on these responsibilities and bring the country forward. I warn those who act in a childish manner, whether they be in the government or the opposition, that whatever political crisis and conflicts they build, it is the people who suffer. We always stand with the people. I am against all forms of fraud, corruption and irregularities. If someone levels any allegation against me when I take decisions while working against fraud and corruption, I am ready to leave all these posts and join the people to carry on this battle. We should know that it is what's right that matters, not the party. Allegations have been levelled at the SLFP on postponing local government elections. I, however, assert to the people and the Elections Commission that local government elections must be held immediately.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe returned to the country today following the conclusion of his three-day official visit to India. Speaking to media prior to his departure from New Delhi earlier today, the Premier stated that he discussed means of moving forward on bilateral agreements reached by the countries with his Indian counterpart, Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe met with Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj this morning in New Delhi. Discussions were held on future steps to strengthen the friendship between India and Sri Lanka. Attention was also paid to opportunities to develop and modernize Sri Lanka's ports with the collaboration of India as well as Sri Lanka, Japan and Singapore. Meanwhile, yesterday the Premier met with Indian President Ramnath Kovind at Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi. President Kovind affirmed India's support for the vision of a stable and prosperous Sri Lanka while expressing keenness to strengthen bilateral economic ties. Kovind said that development cooperation forms an important part of bilateral engagement between the two countries. Subsequently, Premier Wickremesinghe met with leader of India's Congress Party, Sonia Gandhi. Bilateral matters pertaining to India and Sri Lanka as well as regional political and social trends were discussed during the meeting. Meanwhile, prior to his return to the island, the Prime Minister expressed views to media.
During discussions with the Prime Minister, we talked about the progress made in projects started under the agreement reached last April as well as the delay in commencing some projects. We also discussed matters related to the Indian Ocean as well as the new economic and technology cooperative agreement between India and Sri Lanka. We decided to consider this project, especially the ETCA, as the basic framework for our economic relationship. We now need to wrap up those processes and forge ahead.
Well, on our lead story tonight, with the joint opposition handing over a no-confidence motion against Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Government Faisal Mustafa yesterday, the JVP also followed suit today. They handed over the no-faith motion to the Speaker, saying the Minister failed to hold the elections even though the Parliament has passed all necessary legal provisions.
13 parliamentarians representing the joint opposition handed over a no-confidence motion against the Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Government yesterday. In such a backdrop, Janata Vimukthi Peramuna too handed over a no-confidence motion against Minister Faisal Mustafa with the signatures of 5 out of 6 of their parliamentarians. JVP parliamentarian Bimal Ratnayaka, who is currently overseas, was unable to sign the no-confidence motion. The no-confidence motion points out that even though the Parliament has passed necessary provisions, including the Act pertaining to local government elections, the Minister failed to hold elections at the correct juncture. The no-confidence motion also illustrates 2 reasons behind the Minister's failing. Firstly, it highlights the inability to issue the Gazette, published on the 17th of February this year, bearing number 2006/44, without conjecture. Secondly, the failure to rectify anomalies in the Gazette, bearing number 1928/16, declaring local government bodies and wards following the delimitation process by the National Delimitation Committee, issued on the 21st of August in 2015.
The basis of the court's judgment is the failure by the Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Governments to issue a proper gazette. This fundamental responsibility lies with the Minister. Deciding the date of election, provided this court process is left to take its due course, has also become problematic. Some no-confidence motions are stuck in the agenda. Also amongst them is no confidence on the failure to produce a proper no-confidence motion. Our primary responsibility here is to produce a no-confidence motion in the proper manner.
In the meantime, representatives of the JVP met with the chairman of the Elections Commission as well.
There are about 100 local government bodies that are not included in the stay order of the court where elections can be held. The chairman of the Election Commission has decided to hold elections in those areas. There is a division within their party and they went to court to borrow more time to resolve it.
With confusion and uncertainty surrounding the local government elections, the topic was a natural point of concern in the political arena as various politicians put forth their views.
There is no leader of the opposition to force elections. It is us who do that and act as the opposition. My forecast for the looming local government election is that out of the 24 districts, the Polonnaruwa district is where Mahinda's Podujana Peramuna will win with a greater percentage. As the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, we are ready to go to courts to expedite the election. This postponement depicts the government's lack of self-belief to hold elections. If the government is waiting until they develop self-confidence, a day will never dawn where election is possible.
Someone has filed a court case against the delimitation. I say it is unfair to bring a no-confidence motion against the minister.
We will bring this no-confidence motion for sure. Various parties are engaged in conspiracies to postpone elections and we are against it. It is already late. There can be issues in the electoral system, but those issues are common for us as well. Elections must be held even if it is not beneficial for us. No-confidence motions, however, are not really a challenge. The government's research has made it clear that they will suffer a heavy loss if elections are held. It is the JVP that helped the government to overcome the challenge of postponing provincial council elections. The JVP should seek the forgiveness of the people.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that until such time the Sri Lanka Freedom Party continues to support the government, there will not be any agreements to contest the upcoming polls on a single ticket. The former head of state made these comments to the media after taking part in a ceremony to commemorate the late D.A. Rajapaksa. The 50th commemoration of late D.A. Rajapaksa took place at the new town hall in Colombo yesterday. Soon after the event, the former president spoke to the media. There is a no-confidence motion in Parliament initiated by the joint opposition. If there are no elections being held, it reflects as the country does not have democracy. The minister must take the responsibility along with the government. Our team is yet to take a decision on that. It's with them. We have several conditions. We cannot be on the same stage when the SLFP is supporting the government. That is what we are discussing now. We have appointed 3 and they have appointed another 3. They will discuss on this further. No, we have not asked for the premiership. The minister should resign in a respectful manner. I think the no confidence will win. In the end, he pointed the finger at me on this delimitation. Now he is fighting against his own.
Versus Pfizer.
I freed this country from further sacrificing lives. If prison is the gift, then there is no problem. The Organisation to Protect the Motherland alleges that the government is planning to apprehend former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Addressing a media briefing held at the Abhayarama Temple in Narayanpeta today, its members affirmed that the Mahasangha will take to the streets in protest if the former Defence Secretary is arrested.
We received information pertaining to the possible arrest of former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The reason behind it is the construction of the tomb of his late father, D.A. Rajapaksa. The government should stop such attempts. If not, they will see the Mahasangha take to the streets. In 2014, the Rajapaksa Foundation requested estimates for a construction from various state institutions. The Land Reclamation and Development Corporation gave an estimate of 33 million rupees. Accordingly, they were given the contract. During the construction process, the government changed. The Rajapaksa Foundation paid the due sum. They paid 25 million first, and when the government changed, the estimate went up to 99 million rupees. The Rajapaksa Foundation made it clear that the due estimate was 33 million rupees and that they would pay it, and they paid the remainder. Even though the payment is made in full, they are attempting to arrest him, saying that Gotabaya Rajapaksa is implicated in this affair and it was done upon his orders. They try to back up their claims, saying that the Land Reclamation and Development Corporation came under the former Defence Secretary's ministry. They can imprison Gotabaya Rajapaksa, but he will come out a hero.
The joint opposition says that they agrees with the statement made by State Minister Sujiva Senasinghe regarding the biased behaviour of the Speaker. The joint opposition made this comment addressing a media briefing held at the parliamentary complex today.
The most prominent theft in Sri Lankan history took place under this government. No intellectual could calculate the amount. This will result in a debt burden that haunts the people until 2045. Interest rates also increased by 100% as a result. Who committed this sin? It is the very same government who came into power to catch the thieves. Now they are the thieves. Who would invest in this country when the well-dressed officers in the main monetary institution of the country are involved in this theft? After the Prime Minister went to the Bond Commission, a poster was seen with the caption, "An unafraid Prime Minister." He tried his best to cover up this deal by using his ministers and MPs. 14 parliamentarians of this country was imprisoned within the past 2 years. We are unaware of at least whether the Speaker was informed in this regard. When those MPs were apprehended, the committee pertaining to parliamentary privileges kept silent. The Speaker kept silent. MP Sujiva Senasinghe, however, uttered the truth at that moment by saying that the Speaker is biased. We also can agree on that.
The Colombo High Court today sentenced 8 supporters of parliamentarian Hirunika Premachandra, who stood accused of abducting a youth with a defender in Demaragoda. 6 of the suspects were handed a 2.5-year term of rigorous imprisonment, suspended for a period of 12 years. Now with that, let's take a look at other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
When the case was taken up today, the Colombo High Court slapped the 6 suspects who were handed a 2.5-year sentence of rigorous imprisonment, a fine of 36,000 rupees each. In addition, the court also ruled that the abducted should be paid compensation to the tune of 200,000 and 1,500,000 rupees. Since one of the 8 suspects is schooling, he was spared a sentence but was released on a bond of 100,000 rupees. The High Court also took into account that another suspect happened to be a civil servant and ordered him to pay 75,000 rupees to the abducted youth. The case against MP Hirunika Premachandra pertaining to the incident is due to be taken up in future. Residents of the village Ninsirigama, home to about 300 families, charge that their village gets inundated even though there isn't any rainfall. They say that rains received in surrounding areas flowing through to their village has given rise to various issues including health complications. The body of the 17-year-old who disappeared after the car in which his parents and twin brother were travelling fell into a canal in Mahiyangane last evening was recovered this morning. The post-mortem examination of the 17-year-old along with his parents were conducted today. A mobile phone captured a lorry colliding with a train at the Hunupitia level crossing recently. Residents in the Rambava area staged a protest blocking the Kurunagala-Chilau road, centering an accident which left one person dead on Wednesday. The protest was launched last night.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Minister of Finance and Mass Media, Mangala Samaraveera, says the present government was able to end the era where income tax policies were dictated by the whims and fancies of politicians. The minister made this remark during an awareness program on the new Inland Revenue Act worked off in Mathura today.
Income tax became a political weapon for the past governments. Previous finance ministers used to give tax relief to their allies while oppressing their enemies with heavy tax. We can put an end to it through this act. From now on, a particular formula will be used for processes and political ideologies will not be considered. We're going to implement this act from the 1st of April onwards. We introduced the policy of open economy in 1977, but it came to a halt in 1980 due to war. The economy collapsed thereafter, and by 2015, Sri Lanka was leading in economic regression in South Asia. So now we have to open our economy while prioritizing competition.
The World Bank asserts that trade liberalisation is a necessity for Sri Lanka, while emphasising the importance of facilitating the adjustment of households and firms to a more outward-looking system to avoid any negative effects that might occur in the short term. Senior economist of World Bank Sri Lanka, Ralph Van Doorn, made the remarks speaking at a seminar held yesterday in Colombo.
A public dialogue on the latest Sri Lankan development updates themed managing risks and creating opportunities for sustainable growth was worked off yesterday at the University of Colombo. The seminar was organised by the World Bank in collaboration with the Department of Economics of the University of Colombo and was hosted by the Economic Students Association. Addressing the gathering, senior economist for World Bank Sri Lanka, Ralph Van Doorn, hailed recent economic reforms by the government.
Some of the new policies on the fiscal side, for example, the new Inland Revenue Act, the increase in the VAT and the increased level of foreign exchange reserves are positive developments over the last 6 months. In order to continue on this path and hopefully increase growth, it's important to change the growth model. In order to achieve economies of scale, you want to have a bigger market. And the bigger market is by having a more export or outward orientation.
He also stressed that trade liberalisation is a necessity for Sri Lanka.
You've seen inward-oriented growth model has paid off for a while, but it's going to run out of steam in the next 5 years in the medium term. But if you liberalise trade, it's going to affect everything. The reduction of tariffs and duties will mean that all the prices will change in the economy. Wages will change, prices will change, incomes will change. Now, first of all, there are lots of opportunities because changing the growth model is going to likely lead to more and better jobs, more productive firms and access to new markets. It will lead to more export-oriented FDI because you have more export opportunities. And it will lead to more tax revenue because it will be a boost to growth. But in the short term, there will be negative impacts on certain households, certain firms. So how do you deal with that? So it's important, and the government has already found it out and put it explicitly in the budget. You need to facilitate the adjustment. It's important to improve the business environment so that firms can more easily reallocate their resources into sectors that will grow fast, so get opportunities. So it's important to facilitate that adjustment. And if you do that, there will be benefits to the overall economy, And also you will have mitigated the risk of this trade adjustment to households and firms.
Let's take you straight to the stock market now. Stocks were lower after the close today as losses in the services, telecom and power and energy sectors led shares lower. At the close in Colombo, the CSE all share fell 0.66% to hit a new one-month low. Now here is Imeshi Fernando with a full report from the trading flow.
The turnover was 596.36 million rupees, with 14.13 million shares changing hands in 3,266 trades. The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,923.5 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 126.78 million rupees and foreign sales were 244.3 million rupees. There were 5 crossings today and the crossing turnover was 177.99 million rupees.
Well, in order to get a picture of how the markets performed during the week, here is Shabir Hussain from Freedom Finance Australia with our weekly review.
Investors have stayed in the sidelines this week as they are not clear on the new taxes and key legislations in the new budget. We saw a weak market yesterday and today due to political uncertainty pertaining to the court decision on the local government elections. Foreign markets have comparatively performed exceptionally well with yields of up to 35%, with Sri Lanka in comparison recording a yield of only 3.06%.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Welcome back everyone on to international news. Militants launched a bomb and a gun attack on a mosque in Egypt's North Sinai province, killing 235 people and injuring at least 130. Witnesses say the mosque was targeted during Friday prayers. Local police said a gunman arrived in 4 off-road vehicles before opening fire on worshippers. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held emergency talks with security officials to decide on how to respond. Also making international headlines, Emmerson Mnangagwa was sworn in today as Zimbabwe's president following the dramatic departure of Robert Mugabe after 37 years of authoritarian rule. The former vice president, who returned from exile on Wednesday, was inaugurated at the National Sports Stadium in the capital, Harare.
Emmerson Mnangagwa's dismissal from the post of vice president earlier this month led the ruling ZANU-PF party and the army to intervene and force then-President Robert Mugabe to quit. 75-year-old Mnangagwa, nicknamed the Crocodile because of his political shrewdness, promises to deliver jobs and is seen as open to economic reforms.
I will discharge my duties with all my strength to the best of my knowledge and ability and true to the dictates of my conscience, and that I will devote myself to the well-being of Zimbabwe and its people. So help me God.
The opposition is urging Mnangagwa, who has been part of the ruling elite, to end the culture of corruption. Meanwhile, voicing their views, the public was hopeful that there would be an economic turnaround.
Mnangagwa has come across as someone different. The economy seems to be number one on his to-do list.
Obviously, there's some economic fundamentals that need to be addressed. And I expect and I hope that the new government will address those things.
British Prime Minister Theresa May insists it is for both sides, not just the UK, to move the Brexit process forward so discussions on future trade relations can begin. The British Premier made the remark attending a summit in Brussels today.
These negotiations are continuing, but what I'm clear about is that we must step forward together. This is for both the UK and the European Union to move on to the next stage.
Meanwhile, British Premier Theresa May warned EU leaders to be wary of hostile states while pledging the UK's commitment to European security even after Brexit.
We must be open-eyed about the actions of hostile states like Russia, who threaten the potential growth of the eastern neighbourhood and who try to tear our collective strength apart. And I'm also here to say again that the United Kingdom is unconditionally committed to continuing to play our leading role in maintaining Europe's security. We may be leaving the European Union, but we're not leaving Europe.
You are watching Sri Lanka's trusted news brand, Other Derana 24/7.
Well, we start off with some cricket. Indian spinners has Sri Lankan batsmen dancing to their tune on the first day of the second test with India today. They toppled Sri Lanka for a modest 205 runs in their first innings.
Sri Lankan captain Dinesh Chandimal won the toss and elected to bat first. Wickets fell regularly with no batsman able to hold up an end. Dimuth Karunaratne and Dinesh Chandimal posted the best partnership for the visitors as they put on 62 for the fourth wicket. Before the day was done, Sri Lanka was all out for 205 runs. Ravichandran Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja were the chief architects in Sri Lanka's batting collapse as they shared 7 wickets. There was, however, a silver lining for the Sri Lankans as Lahiru Gamage removed Lokesh Rahul before India ended the day on 11 for 1.
While staying on with cricket, the second day of the much-anticipated first Ashes Test ended with the match well poised as a contest, with neither England nor Australia able to gain the upper hand. At stumps, Australia was 165 for the loss of 4 wickets. Early in the day, England were dismissed for 302.
Resuming their innings from the overnight score of 196 for 4, David Malan and Moeen Ali added 50 runs before Mitchell Starc dismissed Malan for 56. Ali soon followed with Nathan Lyon trapping him in front for 38.
He hasn't quite middled it. Nathan Lyon extracted some serious.
England's last 4 wickets fell for 53 runs and they were soon all out for 302.
Eventually the safe pair of hands. England all out for 302.
Very safe catch. Starc and Pat Cummins were the pick of the bowlers for the Aussies as they bagged 3 wickets each. Australia's reply did not get off to the best of starts as James Anderson, Stuart Broad, Ali and Jake Ball restricted the home side to 76 for 4. With alarm bells of an innings capitulation ringing, captain Stephen Smith and surprise recall Shaun Marsh steadied the innings and guided the side to 165 at stumps. Smith will resume the third day on 64 with Marsh on 44.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Well, here is Sadhanu Pekka at the Other Derana Weather Centre with your forecast first evening edition.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. This is your forecast first for the next 24 hours. Now, tomorrow's temperatures will average around 27 degrees Celsius in coastal areas, hitting a high of 29 degrees in some places. Cooler temperatures in the low 20s will prevail in the central hills. Now, a low pressure zone will form across some parts of the island during the course of the day, spelling widespread showers and thunder showers, especially in the northern half of the island. That's it from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your City by City forecast.
Well, as you know, on Fridays we want to end on a high note, so time now for the good story of the week. This story comes to us from the United States and we want to introduce you to Matt Stutzman, who was born without arms. But that hasn't stopped him from becoming one of the world's best archers. In fact, he competes professionally for the US Paralympic archery team and even sets the Guinness World Record for longest accurate shot in archery. Now, in Stutzman's word, no matter what the challenge is, you can overcome it.
My name is Matt Stutzman. I'm from Fairfield, Iowa, and I'm a professional archer.
Well, that's how we shoot. There you go.
In 1982, I was born, as you see me right now, without any arms. I never see not having arms as a limitation. It's amazing how your body, when it's missing something, your other limbs take off and kind of pick up the slack. So for me, my feet are my hands. Everything that I have in my life, I do with my toes. It's pretty rare that I don't use my feet for something. My phone, for example, how I pick up my phone, I'd actually grab it with my foot and flip it and catch it and be like, hello. A couple medals or trophies that stand out to me is my Paralympic silver medal. I also have the Guinness World Record for the longest accurate archery shot, and I shot an arrow and hit a target from 310 yards away. I want my kids to see that no matter what the challenge is, you can overcome it. You just have to put your head down and push through and figure out a way to be successful, and figure out a way to just, be a good person while you do all that stuff. At the end of the day, I just want to be the best in the world. I don't care if you have arms, you don't have arms. I don't care if you were the Michael Jordan of the sport and you are an able-bodied archer. I just want to beat you because I want to be known as the best archer in the world.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Ada Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny. First at 9. We'll return tomorrow at the same time. Be sure to join us then. Also, don't forget to connect with us as well on Facebook by visiting facebook.com/first@9 or on Twitter at twitter.com/first@9. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good weekend. Good night.